I honestly thought it might have been a Sleestak at first. You remember Land of the Lost, perhaps, or the Sleestaks, the heavy-breathing Sleestaks. I wasn't sure where the sound was coming from just before I hit record this morning. And I looked down, and it was just my dog. Snoring? All right. Welcome to the 313th Finding God in the Times of COVID. As I was thinking about the title, Finding God in the Times of COVID, it occurred to me that maybe it would have been better or more accurate to title these daily devotionals Being Found by God in the Times of COVID. I mean, I know the title's a bit more cumbersome, but it might speak somehow a little more clearly to what the relationship's like. You know, are we open to being found by God in these times? But experiencing God has a lot to do with how we conceive of, how we imagine God, because that influences our experience, right? And I understand that there are a multitude of ways that people relate to, conceive of God in mind, or feel God in heart. Some of it is, as if God were a judge, kind of like waiting for us to trip up and call us on it. And there's a place for justice and being set right on a path. Others might have somewhat of a more neutral experience or relationship with God, and others might be in a camp of fundamentally experiencing God as love, grace. I'd find myself in the latter of those camps. Thomas Keating, in his book Open Heart, Open Mind, maybe the title's the reverse of that, he has this to say: God is not some remote, inaccessible, and implacable being who demands instant perfection from God's creatures, and of whose love we must make ourselves worthy. He's not a tyrant to be obeyed out of terror, nor a policeman who is ever on the watch, nor a harsh judge ever ready to apply the verdict of guilty. We should relate to God less and less in terms of reward and punishment, and more on the basis of gratuity, or the play of divine love. Less and less in terms of reward and punishment, and more in terms of gratuity and the play of divine love. I think of a seesaw. Perhaps sometimes we tend to think of God in terms of reward and punishment, and then this encouragement to let the tilt go toward what might be a more essentially accurate reflection of or experience of this God whom we try to find during these times. I'll invite us into this meditation. After we breathe for a few moments and let our soul catch up with our body, or our body with our soul, maybe. Perhaps we could call to our prayerful imagination one of those images of God that we might have from a chapter of our life, where God's ready to punish. And maybe a picture like that got painted for you by a story you heard, or a conversation you had, or an experience that rang true for you. And as you imagine that form, that part or shape of God. Stern, reprimanding. Again, however it is that you imagine that in your prayer. Gradually, we might visualize in our prayerful imagination a shift. And the shift would be toward a warmth and embracing, welcoming, a loving, manifestation of God. If you have an image in mind, just allow the image to soften and warm. And then we might pay attention to our own response to that shift, that change. What does it feel like to prayerfully imagine God one way and shifting to another? You can stay with the meditation for as long as you like, and when the time to come back is right for you, we'll hear the bell. And be found by God in the times of COVID, February the 3rd. Blessings on your day.